Are you tired of having to look for 1,000 references before finally being able to start the piece in your mind? Do you ever want to just sit down and draw any subject from any camera view? Well, I did. And I knew just how important grasping perspective was to achieve that. My first priority was the human body, so I took 1 month, 30 days, to study bodies in perspective and even took an exam at the end. Today, I will go through what I did day by day and what I thought day by day with the help of my study journal, and also give some tips along the way. Fast forward to here for a TLDR and the out-of-context advices. Around the same time I started writing down my failed year recap, I was feeling so confident in myself. I had finally untangled all my problems and felt like I could make huge moves for the first time. Maybe it is obvious from my tone, but I failed again. A whole month at that. The cause of my failure wasn't any different, so I'll just do a quick rundown and move on to the actual month for transparency purposes. Prior a week or two to the monthly challenge, I had done similar studies to test stuff out. One of those studies really helped motivate me because the results were way out of my league. Obviously, I couldn't achieve the same level again because it was just a lucky instance, so the motivation was pretty short-lived. For the first 10 days or so, I went through a Dropbox arc because I didn't know what to do. I attempted this screenshot exercise only to realize it wasn't what I needed. At that point, I've also been doing these daily boxes for a month. I tried modifying the screenshot exercise to make it make sense for me. When that too didn't work out, I went back to my resources to check if I was forgetting about anything. To no one's surprise, I actually was. The very first thing I learned about boxes, in fact. After I reconciled with my first knowledge, a trail of light shined upon me. I had found the problem. I hadn't failed. So I took an 11-day break. The first reason was that I was making a video. The second reason was that I wasn't taking the correct approach to drawing these boxes. Everything was all messed up. Since drawing the boxes wasn't the point of the study, I thought I could make the initial references from this app, and turn them around with the circles. I could have used circles to turn them up too, but I will have to turn a cube, then build the box I need on top of it, every single time, which is really hard to do because they are so foreshortened and tall. So using 3D screenshots as initial references was definitely the way to go. And just like that, the failed month is finished. Time for the actual study. My goal was simple. I had 1 on-the-ground batch, 4 bottom-up batches, and 4 top-down batches. Each batch had 9 boxes. So in total, there were 81 boxes, and I will draw the human body in each one of them. This is going to be very repetitive.
Which is great for me.
I genuinely enjoy just numbing my mind and doing the same thing over and over again. Day 1. This batch was actually used only once. I discarded it after, not intentionally, but I simply forgot it existed. Seeing stuff I drew moving always makes me happy, so I was feeling good. Other than that, there was nothing major, as I was simply testing out the waters. Oh, I also started adding guidelines all over the box here. I made the boxes for the next day as well. Day 2. I forgot to take notes on the day. Here the doomsday starts. The feet problem lingers on even until today, weeks after I'm done with the month. Silly me thinks it can be solved by making the feet stand slightly outwards. No, the feet hate me. Day 3. I just finished up the batch I did half of the day before. I put them as an animation to feel good about myself. Noted 2 things to improve. 1. Size consistency, and 2. Reducing chicken scratching. Spoiler alert, none got improved. Day 4. Was lazy and only did the box plus guidelines. Day 5. The I don't know my directions problem strikes once more. Instead of drawing the boxes again, I just eyeballed it. Day 6. I was being dumb and I forgot stuff, so I drew the same guide boxes I already did and only noticed after I was all done. After that, I drew the actual guide boxes. I hit my TLDR goal, which was 2, but half of it was in vain. Day 7. Honestly, I feel like there's some major co-op going on in my journal entry. Basically, everything I drew had no volume and looked as flat as they could, so I used Liquify to make my lines curvy. Day 8. Overall, a bad day, but managed to get at least the next boxes done. Day 9. Here, the fact that I couldn't get the volumes right shows even more clearly because they're so foreshortened now. Even Liquify can't help me, and most of it was just feet, which I already draw worse than other parts. Day 10. I make a groundbreaking discovery and figure out that I can flip the boxes vertically. I wonder when I figure out I can flip them horizontally too. I don't think it happens in this month. I also start being taunted by another part of the body I have extra trouble with drawing. Neck and the head. It didn't help that I made the head not fit fully into the box and left a lot to be eyeballed. I tried making the head fit fully into the box, like after a month I was done with everything. On January, as I'm writing this, I didn't have to deal with all that. I could have just drawn them like this. Though with this, the proportions and the measurements change a bit. Eyeballing those is easier than eyeballing the head size for me. Day 11. I'm dumb, so I deleted some of the layers and had to redo them. I wasted a lot of time with that, and up only drawing half a batch. Day 12. I could draw the boxes pretty fine, but when it came to drawing the flesh on top, I sucked so bad. The heads start looking like they belong to an alien, and everything lacks volume. I won't mention the next match because it'll be too redundant, but just know that they torment me in my dreams. So, here comes the effects of trying to document these studies. Normally, recording a 10 to 20 minutes audio and putting a few images on a slideshow shouldn't affect a person this much. But I am way more incompetent than you can imagine. I don't draw a single stroke until the 5th. Maybe I drew some post-maniac sessions. Maybe. I decided not to count these under the month and just pushed the end date a week later. Day 13. I only do 2 bodies as boxes. Day 14. The theory I mentioned here about how the top-down view is weird because I don't see it in real life much. This is definitely incorrect because I don't look at people from the bottom of their feet either. At least kids exist, so I look down at them sometimes. Maybe I should try editing these out to save face here and there. I feel like I'm too comfortable humiliating myself. Day 15. I didn't do anything regarding this study, but this day is still counted. I painted this girl though. I really didn't do a good job of covering the fact that I overly rely on alpha layers and the lasso tool, did I? Day 16. This day I finally make a connection between my problems with neck and feet and my post-maniac sessions. I want to talk a bit outside my journal entry. So, all this time I thought these sessions only helped me with actually waking up, warming up my hand, and keeping art on the back of my brain. Since I was already very comfortable with copying, I thought more copying wouldn't teach me anything. But my hunch that the color-coded muscles would ingrain themselves to my brain was maybe correct. Again, this is what I don't like about just letting the art improvement happen naturally. I can't track anything or pinpoint the reason why. It's frustrating, and ever since my mid-teens I have been intentionally trying to get better. I want to be able to document all of these. I wasn't able to document them as they happened before, but I didn't have much progress either. A huge bulk of the progress I've had was in the last year, and I wrote lots of journals for them. So even though I'm getting older and older, and my freedom to just waste time doing art studies is only lessening, I still want to not turn to the let it flow way.
It feels like I'd be throwing everything.
I, in a social sense, struggled so much to achieve. I should keep this short, but I still have a lot to say. Day 17. Still so much left to go. I just realized I'm finished. There's not much to say about the drawings. It's all the same vacuumed necks and no volume. None of these looked good at the end. I think mentioning this a lot might be giving the wrong idea. The point of this practice was to learn to follow the perspective and boxes to draw an object, bodies in this case. So everything was fine as long as I made sure they fit in the box. It needed to program me into thinking about the vanishing points even while drawing the tiniest crease, and it did exactly that. You'll see what I mean better with the exam exercises I do. Day 18. After standing bodies, I decided to draw slightly different standing bodies. On this day, I only tried to figure things out. Day 19. Once again, I'm dumb, so I didn't realize I was just drawing the first batch I drew flipped horizontally. I really liked the last one I drew, but others made me want to puke. And about building off the boxes I've drawn before. Yeah, maybe if I had a third person's opinion, I wouldn't go down a path that'll take me weeks to come back from. The first person is me, and the second person is the voices in my head. Day 20. I took a 4-day break. What can I say? Everything was so hard it paralyzed me. These are still counted in the month, I believe. The exams aren't. I didn't count my journal entries after I was done, so I don't know if I did a good job not going after a month. I prepared the boxes by erasing parts from the ones I used already, and then I drew 2 bodies. I, for some reason, ended up really liking those 2 bodies, so I, for some reason, believe I should call it a day. The mind works in mysterious ways. I don't have the correct vocabulary knowledge to explain the unaligned boxes and aligned boxes thing. Basically, since I have these big boxes and small boxes for the individual parts of the body, if a part of the body is not aligned with the big box, I draw an aligned box for that part of the body, then draw the unaligned box based on that. Of course, it takes a shit ton of time, and the goal is to not need them. But I do need these for the time being, so I'm glad I found a way I can comprehend. Day 21. Overall, I start feeling really good about my progress, but start having doubts about my pace. Since I didn't have to draw the boxes, I can get them done very quickly. I think I was planning to draw more poses in these 81 boxes, which is crazy to me. That's definitely not needed. I mean, yeah, it'll help, but the time required doesn't make sense for the improvement gain. Maybe I should have gotten rid of the 4 in between boxes and done more poses. I mean, I could always go back to it. Day 22. The positivity continues, but as I mentioned, these get done pretty quickly. So why was I drawing half a batch and calling it quits? I don't even remember. Day 23. Backs are definitely harder. Other than the neck, I think I'm starting to. As I'm writing the script on January, I'm starting to think I also have a problem with this part of the waist, and its connection to the pose. Day 24. I bump into a problem which I presume is rooting from me not fitting the heads into the box. Basically, I ended up making the body go smaller than it should. Day 25. I really liked how I did these kneecaps. They make it look like I know my stuff, and I absolutely don't. Day 26. I mentioned how the body changes in each one of them, and I don't elaborate upon why it doesn't matter. Basically, it is the same thing with standing bodies. This practice needs to program me into getting comfortable with thinking about the vanishing points as I draw the body. The first practice was all aligned body parts, and now I'm making it a bit harder by having stuff move, rotate around. It's the same logic. Day 27. I iterate upon ways that make sense for me to draw the head. I still use this I love line to help me draw it. Day 28. My journal entry for this day is just plain messed up because I randomly decide to go on a completely unrelated tangent and keep at it for longer than any of my previous actual entries. For the study, I noticed that I'm going faster. I mentioned some false causes and results. The reason I'm getting faster is because I'm half-assing it more. I realized I was actually rushing them once I try and finish another batch the same day. Day 29. Today is the last day because apparently I can count. I rushed the last batch and have a revelation. I thought that I should have done 1 box of each batch, and that way it'd be easier to see the improvement. I still think that, but I didn't use that approach in my face studies either. I don't think I will ever do that. It's just too much thinking for me. After that, I tried making cubes for the exam, next practices, and so on. Now these boxes are wholly incorrect. I measured them inside the body boxes I drew before, and my measurements were probably the worst in the history of humanity. It takes me a long while to accept this and redraw them, because I really didn't want to draw 80-something boxes again and number them. Numbering them is a more annoying part because it sucks on prograde. Exam 1. The note for this day was written the day after. To be honest, I'm confused myself, so take the date with a grain of salt. I start the practice I always wanted to do, drawing various poses from various angles. At the time, I considered this an exam, but I think this is better as an exercise. In the journal, I was feeling conflicted about the fact that I need this much repetition to remember the fact that objects go towards the vanishing points. But I think it's fine as long as the job gets done. Exam 2. Forgot to take notes again. I did these too, but honestly I don't remember a single thing about them, so I can't say if I actually did that. Other than that, I figured out at least one fault about my measurements. I figured out how to do them correctly way later than this challenge, so I won't be able to tell much about that here. Exam 3. This is the third time I'm forgetting to take notes, but oh well. I continued with the same exam, but I accidentally tricked myself. I thought I got the direction completely wrong, so I took all that time to recreate the pose in MagicPoser, only to see that I did in fact do it correctly. I also watched this video about turnarounds. Exam 4. I decide my final exam to be a Reagan turnaround. Nothing about it makes sense. All this time I've been drawing naked bodies, so why am I just drawing a suit out of the blue? I think I just wanted to draw him. After debating about how he should be standing, I drew the front and side profiles. Exam 5. I continue with the Reagan turnaround. I couldn't put it in between. Well, in between. I had a hard time visualizing the measurements, and having no boxes to use as a guide didn't help either. Exam 6. I can't explain what is happening here, but all I can say is that it's about sucking at measuring the in-betweens. I needed one in-between for each side, but I ended up having 4. How does that happen? If it was 3, maybe I'd understand it. I just forgot I needed to keep it quick. But 4? Why? Anyway, I really like seeing them just move, so I do tests without finishing it fully. It's pure time wasting, but it makes me happy. Exam 7. The day is once again spent on cleaning and polishing more, but I mentioned how I do one part at a time, like first heads, then arms, then shoes, etc. I didn't notice this at the time, but I'm pretty sure this is the reason at the end it looked like each part rotated by itself, not in harmony with the whole body. Exam 8. I finally finished the Reagan turnaround. I didn't know how to do the wrinkles, so I just moved them a bit until they disappeared. I also had a problem with the colors of the suit, and got help from sketchbook models. My final thoughts at the end were the same stuff I mentioned throughout the process. I don't think this was a good exam. I mean, none of the body parts are actually visible. That's the one thing I was drawing all this time. I think doing a turnaround of Reagan was just to fulfill a subconscious evolutional need in me. On another note, this little project helped me remember my initial goals with starting to study art. I could see all the mistakes every time I watched it, yet it still made me feel giddy each time. The problems made me even more eager to just rush and get better. Obviously, I try to keep that only as a feeling because rushing will get you nowhere, but I was just so up in the air. I also thought of doing a turnaround of Reagan in a pose, instead of just standing. I say it's a joke, but I actually attempted. Exam 9. I didn't feel finished with my exam. I actually failed it, so I started trying to test myself with various things. Since I remember Sketchfab existed the day before, I searched for transparent boxes. This is something I desperately searched for both in Sketchfab and other places, but couldn't find any. Turns out I was just using the wrong keywords. Well, enough about that. I just babble a lot about boxes. Later in the day, I decided on my dumbest decision ever throughout this 1-month-long journey. I actually go with the pose Reagan turnaround. I try and try only to realize that the pose looks goofy from the front and come to the decision that anybody with a brain will have already. My final exam will be a basic body turnaround. The smartest decision ever throughout this 1-month-long journey also occurs on this day. I start doing the Adoka Sketchbox exam as a daily exercise, but that's not included in this challenge at all. It's more like an add-on practice. This day is very packed for no reason at all. I also get revelation about boxes in my dream. They are not fully thought out. I grounded my opinions on the topic way after this day passes, and when I was already done with the next subject. Exam 10. Today I don't do anything related to the exam. I measure cubes in the boxes I use, and only after I'm finished with all of them do I realize that they are all incorrect. Then I test the cubes. Nothing related to the topic. Exam 11. If boxes taught me anything, it is that I have a huge problem with directions. As a side note for box rotation, if all sides are the same, you only need these 3, 2, and any amount of in-betweens you want. If you need cubes for an object that is symmetrical but has a different back and a front side, like a body, you need to draw one more batch. If all sides are different, you need to draw 4 batches. At least that's what I think. I'm not sure about anything I say regarding boxes. For the exam, I sketch all the frames roughly and liquefy a lot. Exam 12. In the journal, I babble about boxes and my dailies. I don't know why they're here, honestly. I draw one more layer which is cleaner and also takes continuity into account. The shoulders are too big and they stay that way. I also was confused about how in turnarounds things don't become that bigger as they move closer to the camera. I came to the conclusion that turnarounds are just supposed to be way less distorted than the box guides I drew. I have some to fix with the calves. I don't really enjoy calves all that much. I fix them later on, and with that the exam is actually done this day. I don't know why I didn't write more of my thoughts, but I remember being really happy and proud at the time, like I was with the Reagan one, but even more because this one actually worked as a turnaround. Now I realize the lower legs still jiggle a lot, but in a funny way. I guess they're just easier to spot since they don't move around much. So to recap, I had a goal of getting more comfortable with drawing objects in perspective, starting with bodies. I didn't care about anatomy or the intricacies of the human body. I used construction and general knowledge of the human body from figure drawing to fill in the gaps. I made box guide using the help of MagicPoser and drew bodies in them for a whopping 81 times. I then upped the difficulty and tried the body that is standing in a pose. I also drew that for 81 times. While there wasn't a huge contrast in quality between the first and the last one I drew, it rewired my brain in a way I don't think would have been possible otherwise. I know it's hard to just believe my word, so here's my evidence. Evidence 1, my self-conducted exam, and evidence 2, my new daily exercise. Ever since I finished this month-long study, I've been able to do these turnarounds without much struggle every day for at least a month. It's approximately 150 of them. Before, my brain used to shut down trying to draw a simple pose mirrored. I'll admit, maybe the average person doesn't need this much repetition. Maybe you can read objects in perspective follow vanishing points on a book and apply it perfectly from then onwards. But unfortunately, I'm not that type of a person. I genuinely believe all this repetition rewired my brain and got rid of the reluctance I had when I needed to draw anything in a new perspective. Sure, on these turnarounds my boxes aren't fully correct, but all I need is them to be approximately correct, and I could get them to look better if I spent more time. Now I know what to do and how to do it when I need to turn something around, and I feel no anxiety regarding the process. It became familiar to me. I'm glad this practice accomplished what I needed it to. Otherwise, all my study plans would have fallen through the cracks. My life depended on understanding how to rotate an object. If you want to do anything similar, I have some advices. First, the way I went about it isn't the best for tracking progress. Instead of going batch by batch, doing one box from each box like this, or better yet, like this, would allow for both better progress and better track of it. At least that's my theory. But I didn't utilize this idea here or with my later studies. The pros did not outweigh the cons for me. Or maybe I should stop being stubborn. On a related note, the same one box from each batch approach can be used if you want to just try it out without committing to it fully. If you want a slightly easier time, use this. And if you're fine with being challenged a bit more, use this. If you are doing it fully, I recommend not foregoing the second part of the practice, which is a standing body that's slightly imposed. The first part helps ingrain following the vanishing points in your brain, while the second part focuses more on turning stuff around without a guide. Since you have to turn aligned boxes around to draw body parts that are unaligned with the rest. And of course, you can make it easier by getting rid of some of the in-between boxes and harder by adding more. The practice really doesn't take that long. Even though I did this over 1 month, I only did 1 to 2 hours a day, with most of the days being 1 hour. Bear in mind that I spend a lot of time drawing the boxes as well. If you own a PC, you can probably create 2 box guides in a 3D program and save lots of time. So don't let drawing any one body scare you or make you believe I did way more than I actually did. It doesn't have to take you a month. You can probably be done with it in 1 to 2 weeks, still spending 1 hour a day on it. Of course, if you add the second phase, things change a little bit, but you get what I mean. And if you spend 1 minute on each, that's an hour and 30 minutes, so it's not a get done in 1 day exercise for most either. Just do it in a pace that's comfortable and sustainable for you. I made a huge mistake whilst doing these. I didn't know the width for the box I was using for the head. It was up in the air, and I think this is one of the reasons I had such a hard time with them. Generally, you'd make it the width of the guide box, but the measurements I came up with were wonky, so I couldn't do that. On January, as I was writing this, I decided to try it again to compare. I was actually going to do 81 of them, all over again, but I gave up because I was bored. As you can see, if you adjust your measurements a bit, you can make the head the width of the guide box, but a lot of it is going to be eyeballing. Which brings me to my next point. I've become better with eyeballing. I also just feel more comfortable sketching random stuff, though I haven't done that much. I'm planning to. Another mistake I did was, while I utilized the ground plane that's closer to the camera, I completely forgot about the one that's further, letting the bodies to get smaller than they should. So make sure to utilize both and work from the outsides to the middle. It should be easier to spot mistakes and fix stuff if you do this study on an animation sequence. I didn't do it because it's a hassle to align them. My eyes can't see all the tiny pixels. So if you want to take that approach and you're drawing the guide boxes yourself, I recommend drawing them aligned from the start, not next to each other like I did. Also, seeing them move is a really great boost to morale. So yeah, I think this is a great exercise to fully grasp whatever object it is that you are trying to and feel comfortable drawing it. I'm satisfied with what I gained from it, and I'm definitely going to be using it in the future.